Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Cardboard Herald, my chance to talk with creative gamers and game creators. And today, joining me from the podcastiverse, from the board game designiverse, I have Ian Zang. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Are you often on other people's podcasts? Like, tell me what it feels like to be in your position right now.
It's not often. I've been on a couple now because, I'm doing the circuit for Kingdoms of the Deep, but it's generally me interviewing other people on breaking into board games. So that's been the thing. But I'd love to go on more. So if you have listeners who are, podcasters themselves, I would love to join in. I'm a talker. I don't stop talking.
I don't think anyone who has ever listened to a board game related podcast hasn't at least entertained the idea of, well, maybe I should create a board game podcast or at least become a board game designer. It's like one of those two paths,
Yeah, I think there's like the 7 layers of hell in terms of board games, where like the first level is like, oh, Monopoly, yeah. Level 2 is like, ooh, what's this Catan thing? Level 3 is like, oh, there's more?
Right.
And then it's like, oh, Amazon, this is cool. Okay, that's level 3. Level 4 is like, okay, what's Twilight Imperium?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Level 5 is, I can design one of those things. That's cool. And then level 6 is I have several games published. And level 7 is obviously I started my own publisher. I'm doing my own thing now.
Yep. Well, this is exciting for me because I feel like I'm a completionist who is now collecting the last member of the Breaking Into Board Games pantheon onto the podcast here. And we are here primarily to talk about Kingdoms of the Deep. I mean, you have a game, it's on Kickstarter, it's being released or I guess kickstarted by Galactic Raptor. And how are you feeling at the moment, dude? Like, are you excited about this project? Like, what is the vibe you are carrying?
I'm thrilled that it's funded, and there's some really cool stretch goals coming up. I really want the inlaid boards with the little tokens where you can put the things in, like the scythe boards. Man, it'll be so nice to have those things. But I mean, I'm excited to just see people play it. Like that's the biggest joy I get out of designing games and releasing them is seeing people play them, seeing people post about them, and just be excited about the thing that I created. And I just don't get that enough because normally I'm working behind the scenes, and so it's just like, here, go, fly away. But this one is like, this is mine, this is my baby. I made it from beginning to the end, and like I'm really excited to see it fly now and or swim, swim really fast. Swordfish fast,
Well, speaking of this being your baby, this is in some ways thematically maybe, or at least artistically, this is like a successor or a sequel type of game to Galactic Raptor's previous game, which was Animal Kingdoms, by a different designer. Was that something that you pitched to them from the get-go? Did you have a different design and they were like, yo, what if this becomes one of our Kingdoms games? Tell me about that whole process.
Well, let's just say that I didn't exactly officially pitch the game.
Did it come up on a podcast and then you guys just were like, let's take some notes here right now?
Yeah, it was more that I happened to be hanging out with Carla at her house in Huntsville, Alabama, and I brought out this game because I was like, I really want to show this to Carla because she's got a really killer design mind, and I'd love to get her feedback on it so that it can be made even better. And then she was just like, well, do you want to do it through us? And I was like, it took me a second because I was like, wait, what? Yeah, let's do it. This is great. And so it really came through the theme was kind of an emergent idea that it wasn't originally going to be a Animal Kingdoms universe game, but then I was thinking about it and I was like, well, Animal Kingdoms is pretty area control-y feel to it, and I was like, well, this is kind of, again, it's kind of area control. But like Animal Kingdoms is more of like a hand management card game rather than like a true area control game. And so this game that I had created, which was originally called Macrophage, ended up being pretty close to the kind of core idea of what that line is all about. And so it didn't take much changing to really bring it into the line of the Animal Kingdoms universe. So we're just in the water now.
I am just going to take a risk and say you dodged a bullet by not releasing a game called Macrophage. I mean, maybe it would have worked, but come on. Kingdoms of the Deep just sounds so cool.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Macrophage came out of... So the whole story of this game is I designed this game in 75 minutes, and I have a video to prove it.
Awesome.
It was part of a game design challenge that one of my friends was doing, and he provided me with 2 themes and 2 mechanics and said, you have 75 minutes, go. You have to have a pitchable idea by the end of 75 minutes. And so that's what I did. I set to work trying to figure this out, and one of the things was it was a virus theme, and so I had to like shoehorn a virus. I was like, oh, what do viruses do? Well, they multiply and they create more viruses, and then things will be hunting them down. It's like a macrophage, and so like there's this macrophage, but then the macrophage literally turned into a shark as you're eating the small little ocean critters, which. I mean, thematically, they're essentially the same thing. A macrophage is just a giant, like, amorphous shark for bacteria and viruses, which is pretty cool. And so it ended up working really well.
So 75 minutes to come up with a pitchable idea. How much development went into it after that?
After the 75 minutes, I spent a good year-ish on just kind of honing the things down so that I could get the whole mechanics down. Yeah. Actually, in the previous interview, I actually found the original like notes that I took, and this is the original player board. I don't know if this is a video. This is probably not a video podcast.
Oh, this is a video. We got it all here. We got it all.
So
man.
Like you can see that if you look at this and then you look at the player boards, it's almost exactly the same thing. Like, right. There are some small things that changed. Like I had a currency in here that I used to have, but like. For the most part, the player board has not changed all that much. The core idea of the game has remained the same pretty much from the very beginning, where each player has the same hand of 6 cards. Every round, you play one of them, and then everyone reveals at the same time and resolves them in order, in turn order. But if you were the only person to do a certain action that round, you got a bonus. That has been in since the very beginning. And so it's evolved a little bit. Like it's been small tweaks around the player board and like the scoring, but the biggest development thing that especially Carla has helped out with is the goals, because I got a really good core game down where there are capitals on the board. It's a hexagonal board, kind of like Catan, exactly like Catan, same size board as Catan, and the individual there are 6 tiles on the outside ring of that hex that are capitals, 1 in each of the 6 different types of terrain.
Right. During
a scoring round, each of those scores 2 points if you have majority in it, and that's pretty much the extent of like the area majority that you need.
Yeah.
But that scoring is always there. It never goes away. But there's different scoring mechanics that pop up every game that you shuffle up a deck of cards and you choose one of them to play with. And everyone is unique. There's a unique special action that, well, if you do the move action, also upgrade something this turn. And so you're incentivized to try to do certain strategies based on what card is out. And so every game is going to be completely unique now because people are going to be jockeying for these different positions and trying to go for these things. There's always and I think one of my favorite things that came out of the development is this Atlantis tower. If you look at the Kickstarter, now there's this little tower, hexagonal tower that you put right in the middle of the board. And if you've played El Grande, you know that it's very similar to that idea of the tower in El Grande, which is just the largest, most absurd game component in any game that I know of. Well, I mean, that's hyperbole, but
yeah, we could be talking about Cthulhu Wars here.
Yeah, there we go. But I mean, for a long time, that El Grande tower was enormous. So I really like that idea of like that reveal of like who has it. So I reserved that for the end of the game, and so I put my own little spin on it, where you can put units into that tower and score a point. And you can use the deploy action, which lets you put your own units into that tower, and you just drop them right in, and you score a point apiece. Great. But with the move action, you can also move opponents' cubes into the tower as well, effectively removing them from the board and like from the game until the very, very end. The only way to completely remove someone's piece from the game is to put it into Atlantis, which does score you a point, but Atlantis has end game scoring based on majority, and so you have to like tightrope walk this fun little mechanic into that. So that plus the end game scoring changes up the game significantly, and I've always, every single time I've played, it's been something different. And the playtesters that I've had, almost without fail, someone says, this action is overpowered. This action's overpowered. This action's overpowered. And every time, it's something different.
Yeah, and that's what you want in a game, right? Like, you know, that's one of my favorite things about the asymmetric powers in, say, Voyages of Marco Polo or Marco Polo 2, which I think is an infinitely better game, but that's a whole other podcast, is that you get any of the powers and you're like, oh my god, this is broken. This, like, changes everything. But they all do that in different ways, yet somehow you still have these tight scores and everything, and it feels really good to kind of have that kind of power to wield in your hands.
Yes. Yeah, it's very interesting because every time you play, you're going to be upgrading your player board slightly differently. We've had a couple questions about, are there unique player powers? Not in the base game, because it will overwhelm the players. I tried it. It's... like, there's so much diversity in growth from the very, very beginning that it almost becomes moot point after a certain, after turn one, and it becomes almost too much of a good thing when there's too much diversity. I do have plans for, if this game becomes really successful, there is an expansion that I do want to release that will add player powers for each creature. So that is in the works, and we just need to make this game super successful.
Why isn't it part of the base game itself?
Because if people saw, player powers, and added it in, it would be bad. Okay. Just based on playtesting, it takes away from the experience of building an engine. People get so stuck in a rut of like, I'm going to go for this one thing, forgetting that the rest of the game exists.
So it's not necessarily like a limitation of like the resources as part of this. It's that you want there to be like an understanding of the fundamental nature of the game before you add in this element.
Right. And it just, in the base box, it's just not. I went through a lot of rounds of this. This is it created so much cognitive load for players that it was just overwhelming. Like it got to a point where for new players trying out this thing, it was too much. So the expansion, like, we'll definitely have some fun with that. But again, it's the core experience is so good and diverse. Like, you can just do so much from the get-go. You can hit the ground running. You feel like you can upgrade things right away, and you feel like you have a unique creature by the end of this. I guarantee it.
So we've mentioned Carla a couple times. For those of the audience who don't know, Carla Kopp is from Weird Giraffe Games. She's also co-owner of Galactic Raptor Games that's putting out Kingdoms of the Deep. She's a game designer in her own right, and she's one of my favorite people in the board game industry. In fact, I think she is one of the board game industry's favorite people, period. And she's involved in like 1,000 other projects. She has her hands in a lot of pies.
I just don't know how she does it.
Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable. But she is a person who just kind of like tells it like it is, and she has a great way of doing that feels somewhat confrontational, but also supportive, which is a big reason why I really love talking with Carla. Were there any moments where you kind of butted heads during development on what should be included, what shouldn't, aspects of the game where you felt really convicted that this should be part of it?
Not really. I mean, again, the core of the game was mostly built. Again, we've tweaked some numbers here and there, but both of us have that same sort of mentality of like, if this is going to make the game better, like, we're going to definitely go that way. Originally, I had all of the goals separated by the type that they were, in addition to the age that they were, so that it could have practically infinite different combinations that you could throw at it. Because every card, every age card has a instant ability that triggers off of something happening during the round. And then there are two extra scoring mechanics. One that does not involve other players, and one that does involve other players. So one is like an area majority or some aspect of that. One is like have 2 units in each of 3 hexes in a line. And so as long as you have that, or have your move action upgraded to at least level 3, and then you get points. And so it doesn't involve other people. You just need to be able to get to that point by the end of the scoring round. So I used to have all of those split up on different like mini cards, and so there were age 1 instant actions, age 1 structural scoring, and then age 1 people scoring, area majority scoring. And so it was way too much. And because, I mean, there would have been something like 50 or 60 cards, and then sorting those, and then like it would have been overwhelming. And so she said, why don't we just put it all on one card? I was like, yeah, it'd probably be easier, wouldn't it?
All on the card.
So we just have double-sided cards now, and so you can have a beginner and an advanced mode. So we have something like 12. What was it? We have 25 cards, so like eight or 9 different cards that are double-sided. So for each age. So I mean, literally the possibilities are 8 to the 3rd power in terms of unique games, and that's not factoring in the different board states and what people play during the game. That just it creates a unique experience every single time you play.
So when you talk about this on Breaking Into Board Games, is your advice to the audience there, you know, people who are wanting to break into board games, just hang out with Carla Kopp? Is it just hang out, make friends with publishers and show them your games, you know? Like what's the actionable advice here? Because you have kind of a unique and privileged story by being able to hang out with the publisher.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to just get to know people and enjoy their company first.
Yeah.
I just ended up really enjoying Carla's company. And then I had an opportunity to go to the Space Museum to do some business for my work, which was cool. And her house is like 20 minutes from there. So I was like, hey, after this convention that we're going to, can I just ride over to Huntsville with you and go visit that? And yeah, sure. This is great. Oh, great. I'll bring my game. We can try it out. And like, I wasn't going in with any idea of pitching. I was just like, I really respect your opinion and I want to know what you think about this game. And the best way to get published in this industry is literally just get involved, play test other people's games. Get to know people, because you don't know who's going to be the next big publisher. Like you just don't.
Right.
And I mean, Isaac Vega and Lindsay Rowe just created a brand new venture themselves that is going to just do some really cool things. I created my own company. And so like, I want to work with the people that I like. Yeah. And so I'm going to tend towards those people that I already know. And so just get involved. I mean, I've been in the industry for 8 years and I have three games of my own that are out. I mean, I've worked on like dozens of other projects, but like of my own, I have 3 out. One of them I published my own self. And so like, it takes a long time to get into this, and unless you have like literally the next best thing, like it's hard to just break in right away. Right. Get involved, playtest other people's games. Like that's literally the best way to do it. That's how I did it.
And then sometimes the dam breaks, and you can be like Julio Nazario and just have like 15 games signed at once.
Yes, I mean that's also because he designed like 60 in a month. Exactly. Yeah, Julio uses the shotgun approach, which frankly, like so many of his designs are quality and unique. Like it's a no-brainer. Like every once in a while, someone like that just pops up and it's just like, hey, I should have been doing this like 3 years ago. And like Control is one of the best like abstract strategy games that I've seen in a very long time because it's such a tactile game. I love Julio's games, and Holy is so good. Like I saw that as when it was the World Tree. Like it was so good. He's one of those people that I'd love to work with. Like
Right.
it's so cool what he does. But yeah, again, if you listen to Breaking Into Board Games, the biggest thing that we can say is get involved in any way that you can. Get on Discord and hang out with people. Get on Twitter and just start talking to people. Like, and then eventually when conventions start up again, if you can, like, go hang out and have dinner with people and just
Right.
go to dinner with random people and play games with random people and get to know people, because that, if you want to break in, that is the best way to do it.
Well, let's actually talk about breaking into board games for a bit, because, it's not every day that I have a fellow podcaster on the show. So how long have you been doing breaking into board games? It feels like forever.
5 years now.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so many episodes. I mean, I've been doing this for like 4 years.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
we release bi-weekly, so like it's still a lot.
So what would you say is like your proudest achievement of the podcast at this point?
I mean, probably it's longevity.
It survived.
We've been going this long, and I'm just thrilled that people are excited to come on the show. We've had to institute a policy of like, will we call you? Because we've had so many requests from people just saying like, hey, we've got this Kickstarter coming up, you want to come on? And then we get random emails from people saying like, hey, we've got a Kickstarter, do you want to promote it? And it's like, no. That is like the last thing that we cover, and sometimes we don't even. So like it's our podcast is for those people who are trying to break in and get the advice that they need to hear those people's journeys, so that maybe they can glean something that they might be able to get out of it.
Is there something that you feel like your perspective took a complete 180 from the time that you started until now? Like something that you were so sure about when you were first getting into the board game industry, but maybe you'd give the complete opposite advice if someone asked you today?
Well, I mean, today, don't go to conventions.
Yeah.
That's
no kidding.
Man, that's a really good question. I honestly can't think of that I can say that anything has changed completely, like a full 180. I mean, things have shifted for sure. I mean, sell sheets used to be a big thing. And speaking as a publisher now, I don't like them. I'd prefer a gameplay video of you playing your game so that I can see it and I can hear your narration of your turn, so that I can kind of get the gist of what you're thinking about as you play. And I just like that, because that tells me everything I need to know about what the game's all about. And so sell sheets are less important. Gameplay videos are much more important now. Because the ubiquity of YouTube now is it's so easy for anyone to just upload a quick video that even just for a private viewing, like it's so helpful. Like, speaking as someone who has scouted games, having a gameplay video made me like 50% more likely to actually look at it more.
Do you ever find yourself jaded as a gamer? Not as a publisher necessarily or anything else, but as a gamer, you have these games that you want to play, the games that you want to hit your table, but now at this point, you have to view things from the publisher perspective, and you have to view things as the podcaster perspective, and you have to view things as the game designer and pitching things. Like, does it ever just feel overwhelmingly exhausting, all of these myriad games, which may be good, may be bad, that you are exposed to, and that, like, that little gamer that you used to be before engaging in the industry itself, who just was like, I want to play my favorite game 30 times in a month. Do you ever kind of feel that burnout?
Speaking as, COVID has changed that a little bit. I was feeling a little bit of burnout, but like like anytime I have an opportunity to play a game, I'm happy right now.
Yeah.
Like it's been a long time. But I like to. It's kind of a joke amongst game designers
Mhm.
who use like data merge sort of software to create things, because at a certain point in your game design life, you start to rely on the mass production of cards and components. It makes this designing so much faster. But once you have done that a couple times, all you see is the game's spreadsheet.
Yeah, yeah, for
And so
sure.
I make the joke like, I'm just Neo from the Matrix. All I see
Exactly.
is spreadsheets. it's it's all spreadsheets now. I mean, frankly, Kingdoms of the Deep was a giant spreadsheet. The goals were just giant spreadsheets, and it was just Carla and I making notes on like, yeah, this is good, this is bad, no, no, put that away, no, that's not bad. It was just making notes on individual cells, moving things around, making sure that we had the right things and in the right place.
Well, to use that analogy, I mean, from my own perspective, I talk with a lot of designers. I review a lot of games. I'm analyzing games, and I want to be supportive of new designers, new publishers. So I try to have a measured approach of what games that I'm taking on, and even if it's not something that I'd necessarily like choose if I were just a gamer, I might take on a project because I want to help support this company or provide additional exposure, or it seems like a really novel idea or something like that. So I have no regrets about anything with the Cardboard Herald, but there are times where I wish I had taken the blue pill. Where it's like, God, it would be nice to just kind of like the friends that I play games with, what they must feel when they're playing a game, as opposed to me sitting down and thinking about how am I going to review this, or how am I going to talk to someone on a podcast about this. Like that reduction of pressure and just enjoying the bliss of playing a game. Occasionally I get that feeling. So, maybe we're on different perspectives here. And maybe it's just the residual emotional weight of 2020
Yeah.
creeping into 2021 here. I'm still excited about games. I still love talking to people about games. And things like Kingdoms of the Deep are really exciting and innovative and everything. But that blue pill, it crosses your mind occasionally.
Every once in a while, but then I get to play games and it's like, oh, all is forgiven, everything's back to
For
normal.
real, for real.
Like I
Okay.
got to what did I play the other weekend? It was awesome. We played The Crew, Quest for Planet Nine. Like, wow. Like, it's one of those games where you're like, dang it. How, this? How did you do? You did this with a deck of cards.
Right,
How,
right.
every game is completely what? 50 missions. They're all hard. How? They're all unique. Every time you play them, it's different. Uh, it was just something like the game designer in me was just like, it's amazing. It was amazing. It was watching magic at work. Like you taking simple components and making them into an experience that everyone gets so invested in. It
Mhm.
was so exciting. So that like props to Thomas Singh on that. That was it. It's a phenomenal game.
Well, Ian, I want to at least talk about like what is on the horizon for you. Like, what are the things that you are most excited about that you're working on outside of Kingdoms of the Deep?
So the biggest thing that I'm working on is my own publishing company, which is Gravitation Games.
Hmm.
And you can go to the website gravitation.games.
Taking pitches currently?
Yes, but we're very particular about what we're looking for.
What are you looking for?
We're looking for games that draw people in, and because gravitation, it's a play
Okay,
on
there
words.
we go.
Yeah.
Got it.
But the key to that is that it should have some element of what's going on over there.
Mm.
Like, why do they have little plastic guns and shooting at things? Or why are they laughing so loud over there? Let's see what's going on. And then once people have been hooked over and been like, okay, what's going on? They should be able to figure out how to play by watching it, like from start to finish. And then once they're like, oh, I get it now, they should be able to jump right in and play around right away. Like someone can just step back in. Oh, yeah, sure. Here, step in for me. Play around. Sure. Go, 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 go. Like I want it quick. I want it easy, because there's not a lot of board game companies that are doing this right now. So the first game that we have is actually out right now. You can buy it on our website. It's Please Fix the Teleporter.
I love the artwork on it.
It's art by Nick Nazaro, who is a phenomenal artist, and he did a great job. And the graphic design was all done in-house by the wonderful Aaron Wilson, who's the co-owner of Gravitation. And that's been doing pretty well, and I'm really excited to get it into the hands of more people. It's a quick little pattern matching game, appropriate for all ages, and I have a solo mode in there that is speed runnable. And currently I hold the world record for it. So I'm challenging the world to try to take me on and do it. But you can also go online and you can do a print and play for free. We put up kind of like a half game just so you can print and play it. And I will accept those as speedrun category. So if you want to, you can print it off and you can solo it yourself. So that is perfectly viable. Go and do that right now. But we do have another game on the horizon. It's a party game that plays 4 to 10 people. And it's really great. I'm really excited for it. Follow us on at Grav Games on Twitter or any other social media that you might find, and we'll be announcing some cool stuff soon. We have some art coming in right now that I'm really excited about. It's really cool. The idea is that aliens come to Earth long after we've killed ourselves due to COVID or whatever, and
that's only one among many possible things that are
exactly.
Reality right now.
And so we as the aliens have found all of these cool artifacts, but we don't really know what they are. And so we hold this alien summit to try to figure out what these things are. And the experts from all the different communities come together and try to convince everyone else that this is actually in my purview and I should have it. And so what is it? So one card, for example, was the triple vegan. And so as the expert of human art, how do you explain that?
I would have no idea how to even begin on this. I mean, right now, as a possible role play, I'm thinking does my alien have an image here? Does my alien read English? There's so many things to springboard off of that.
It can be assumed that you have a universal translator that you understand what's going on.
Excellent.
Yeah, and so it's just bouncing ideas back and forth and just saying because it's a game that intrinsically allows people to play the improv game without any hesitancy.
Right.
Because improv, it's yes and you add to it, but in this game, as the expert of human religions, though, obviously the triple vegan is the transcendence of veganism. It's you just go into these long tangents, and no one can disagree with you because you're the freaking expert.
Okay. Yep.
So there's no, you're wrong. It's oh yes, I understand where you're going with that, but this is I'm the expert of human sports, and obviously this is what's going on here. I have not played a game yet where I have not gut laughed, and it's so funny to just watch. And I saw this game at Unpub 3 years ago. What is time anymore? The designer roped me into a giant small group of 6 people playing it, and that we played it for 4 hours.
Wow.
We ended with 20 people playing it.
That's awesome.
It was amazing. So I'm really excited about that. Look for announcements soon. We'll be probably kickstarting that in late Q1 or early Q2. So that's going to be really exciting to get into that. It's so cool. It's really fun to take on a business on your own, finally. I've been in the industry long enough that I've developed the context that I need, and only now am I okay, I have a mission. I know what I want to do with this company. We're going to do it this way. And so now I get to set the mission rather than me trying to just kind of follow along and match things. It's just this is the vision. We're doing this.
All right, man. Well, that is awesome. And I hope everyone goes and checks out the Kickstarter for Kingdoms of the Deep. It's going
Yes,
to
please.
be going on as I post this live, both on the podcast channel, on the video channel. I have links to all of it, as well as links to Gravitation Games, Breaking Into Board Games. We got it all. Ian Zang, thank you so much for coming on and completing my quest to have all the Breaking Into Board Games hosts onto this podcast, man.
All four of us, really?
Yeah, I think so. Am I?
Do you have Dan?
I have Dan. I have Dan, and I
Yep,
have Tony.
and Tony? You don't have Gil.
No. Now that I think about it, oh no. Well, Ian Zang, thanks for coming on to the show and giving me almost all of the hosts of Break Into Board Games.
Well, you had the current hosts. And
Yeah.
that's the important thing.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
Gil went to do his ludology or whatever.
Yep. Don't have Gil. Well, you know, Gil said sayonara, but I have the 3 current hosts. Thanks for completing that pantheon.
There we go.
All right, Ian, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely, Jack. Thanks so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcasts, and video here on our channel and website, cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.